Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We're back. Thank you for hanging in there with us, dedicating the show tonight, of course, to Black History Month and to the memory of Whitney Houston. Marcus J. Ain't no half stepping. Colin Banks, you and I were talking over the weekend about a young man who decided to choose where he wanted to have his future. He wanted his independence so that he could fulfill his own legacy. And apparently his mom wasn't going to allow him to do what he was going to do.
Yeah.
Colin Banks, what you got on that story?
Yeah, man. You know what? They made a lot of big hypes over the signing this week's, and I feel these high school kids get exploited. Dude decides he wants to go to Arkansas, but his mom holds his letter of intent and won't let him go because she wants him to stay home local and go to the University of Miami to go catch the games. I mean, for real, Ma, did Miami offer him a deal? How you going to sit there and not let him go to the school of his choice that he's getting paid to go to? Not so much getting paid, but he's going to get a free education to go to. And I understand. She didn't want to go that far. She didn't want to travel that far. What you think? I mean,
you only get one chance to get your college education. Those years, of course you can go back when you're 40, 50, 60, but that's a very important time of your life. And if he has the opportunity, that's a once in a lifetime chance. So why not let him go where he wants to go?
Right. I agree.
That's the way I looked at it. It was odd because when I heard the story, I almost had a double take because I'm like, really? Did his mom not allow him to go to the college that he wanted to go to play athletics? Now, I was talking to Mrs. J, and we got a personal friend of ours who, when I was telling her that I wanted to talk about this tonight, she shared with me that we got a friend of ours who did the same thing. Like, she wouldn't sign the letter of intent to let the boy go where he wanted to go. And I thought it was odd. And this kid, in this particular case, he ended up getting his dad to sign a letter of intent because apparently you can't just do it as a kid.
You're under 18.
You gotta have a parent. You gotta be over 18. Big Robe. It's strange to me. What's your thoughts, man?
Well, actually, he was 18, but the NCAA rules state that because he is not 21 and he's technically signing a contract, they will not honor the signature of someone 21 or under. He's technically in the school world is considered a minor. Even though he is 18, school world, he's not. He's not. He can go vote, but he can't sign his own.
I was going to say, you can get financial student loans and all that stuff. When did this start?
With sports, it's a completely different animal because they're still
a different governing body.
Yeah, and they're still considered amateurs.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus. Yeah, I'm going to take the opportunity to bring in Kdub, who joins us every couple of weeks, usually weekly if we can have him, to talk about the National Basketball Association. But before we have him get into what's going on in the NBA, I do want to get your opinion on this, K-Dub. We kind of teased the story about the young man who had decided on the college that he wanted to go to, and he had the letter of intent and everything all set up. His mom balked and wouldn't approve it, so he ended up getting his dad to come through. And apparently mom's got a lawyer now. She's not looking to sue anybody, but she's got him as an advisor. What do you know about the story? What's your thoughts, man?
Well, everything that I knew, everything that I heard and what you just reiterated is what I knew. I guess with the father, this must have happened within the last 2 days because I believe I read the story on Friday. But to be honest with you, you can look at it two ways. The mother this is still her son or what have you. She does have some say. So, in regards to the kid, I'm sure that he wants to go where he wants to go. But, I know that for some people that's listening or whatever, this may not be a bombshell or whatever like that. But this happens a lot more than what you think. With a kid being recruited to go to certain schools, and the parent it may not come down to a situation where they don't sign the letter of intent, but the parent may have a very opinionated version of where they would like their son or even daughter to go. I've seen it, and to be honest with you, I'm not going to name names, Marcus, but you and I know, we know of an individual that has happened, that they couldn't go to a particular school due to their parent being the decision maker. So it's a real touchy subject, man. But I hope it works out so that the kid can go somewhere that he wants to go. You don't want to go to Miami and be pissed off because he's not where he would like to be.
All right, and K-Dub, did you hear about the kid that went to that got the tattoo?
I believe he got the tattoo of Auburn and then decided to go to Alabama.
Alabama.
I believe, or vice versa.
Got a full forearm tattoo of University of Auburn. I mean, it looks sweet too, bright orange and everything like Auburn. Right. Then he going to go to Alabama.
They shouldn't have fired the coach.
Man, hey, fire the coach. They should have fired his tattoo artist or fired him for not being smart. He was straight stupid.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus. JK, though, we want to get into what we got you on the live line to talk about, which is the National Basketball Association. The first thing I want to get into, we'll talk about individual teams because there's a few teams that got some stuff going on with them. And we're literally going to take it from New York to Florida to California to Texas. I mean, we're going to take it all the way around the league. But the first thing I want to do, we got the trade deadline that's coming up next week, I believe. And there's a lot of people whose names are coming up as potentially going to be in a new zip code coming up after the All-Star break. Let's start with the guy who plays in your hometown of Atlanta, who's rumored to be heading to Brooklyn. What's going on with Josh Smith and the potential trade with the new, almost in New Jersey, with the Brooklyn Nets?
Well, you're absolutely correct. From what the latest report as of today, in actuality, is that the Brooklyn Nets have shown a real interest, a real solid interest in Josh Smith. They're offering Chris Humphries, Marshawn Brooks, and possibly a draft pick. Anyone that's really followed Atlanta, they would know that Josh Smith has had a real shaky time here in Atlanta. You know, himself being a native or what have you, just hasn't really gone over the hump. You know, for Atlanta, I know that from their perspective, they would definitely like to just kind of get him out of their hair at this particular point, taking on Chris Humphries' contract, Brooks and Marshawn Brooks and the pick. I'm not really sure if, in fact, that will go through. Right now, it's just talks. This time of the year, you're going to get a lot of talks, a lot of, you know, trades, possible trades being thrown out there. Coming up on 2 weeks on the trading deadline. But, you know, for the Nets, they want to. It seems as though that they need another scorer, I guess you could say.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I guess we'll get back to the trades. Let's talk about Brooklyn for a second, Dub. When I watched them play, you had a lot of people who were excited about the team once Avery Johnson was fired. You had PJ Carlesimo take over the team, and they went on a decent stretch. I think they had won like 9 out of 10 at one point. And then they, of course, since then have come back to earth. I think one of the things that is, I guess, different about the tenure since PJ took over that Avery didn't have was a healthy Darren Williams, which, of course, we know that there's some injury talk about him now. But I don't know that the team is that much better under PJ. I think they just had their point guard playing. What can you tell me about what's going on in Brooklyn? And why is it that they're playing such mediocre ball these days?
Well, I think Brooklyn has lost 6 of their last 9. You know, they're looking to try and improve their team, and right now, and so far, and even admittedly from Darren Williams, he isn't having the best year so far. Even to his own admission, and even today, you're finding out that he's not playing tonight against Indiana, and later the next game due to inflammatory conditions to his ankles. It could be an arthritis situation going on, so he's going to be out probably until after the All-Star break. With the Nets, I'm gonna be honest with you, they have talent. I mean, you know, on paper they probably would have the best backcourt, of one of the top 3 best backcourts in the league. I think that at this particular point, it's a lot of meshing and trying to figure each other out. Again, you know, individuals going in and out of the lineup. People are not playing up to their caliber. You had Joe Johnson having a slow start. You had individuals such as Marshawn Brooks that, you know, going from game to game, you didn't know whether or not he was going to play or not. And I think that when PJ Carlesimo took over, it was the whole thing of it being the newness of the team, of a new coach or what have you, and being able to open it up a little bit from the general type of coaching method that Avery Johnson had. But as you can see, they've kind of come back to earth. Like I said, you know, they've lost 6 of their last 9 games tonight playing against Indiana. But it isn't even the fact of how it's not even the fact that they're losing, but it's how they're losing. You know, this past They played the Lakers recently, and they just kind of crumbled over the last part of that game. From what I understand, last night without Tim Duncan, without Ginobili, they just got hammered by San Antonio. So with the Nets, it's not the fact of talent. I think that is effort.
Big Rope.
They don't really have any dogs on their team.
Big Rope.
I mean, Dub, when are we just going to say that they suck? Because
the Nets?
The Brooklyn Nets are terrible. I mean, they have a potential 3 to 4 All-Stars on that team, just like the Lakers, and they're worse than us.
That's not true.
I would tend to disagree with that. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're terrible. I mean, they're 29 and 22. They're sitting in the second spot in the Eastern Conference. So I won't necessarily put the tag of them being terrible.
I mean, they're not. It's not even.
They're probably not playing up to their potential. But again, potential is the most dangerous word in sports.
Well, see, let me jump in there, Dub, because you hear Big Rube always wanting to throw Laker talk. We'll talk about the Lakers. There ain't time to talk about the Lakers. And if we want to talk about the Brooklyn Nets versus Los Angeles Lakers, who got the better record and who has a playoff seed right now? That's the question.
The Brooklyn Nets, but they're not going to have it.
Oh, and the Lakers are the 10th seed that got three teams that are clearly better than them to leap over?
Two teams.
Whatever, dude. You don't lost your damn mind.
He
don't lost his damn mind even 8 o'clock yet. Ain't no ass Steppin Marcus J. Dub, do we have any other people that are on the block? There's a with the Brooklyn Nets, of course, we're talking about Humphreys potentially heading south. What's going on with that potential Ben Gordon trade?
Well, that's also they also are trying to look at moving Curtis Humphreys possibly for Ben Gordon down in Charlotte. It looks as though that if the Nets are going to make a move, they're going to probably move Chris Humphrey for sure, and then you may see Marshawn Brooks. You may see some of your bench players, what have you, maybe being moved as well, just to kind of solidify the deal. Other things that are out there that's being talked about right now is you have San Antonio looking to bolster themselves. They're looking to possibly look to go after Utah's Al Jefferson. I've heard some reports stating that Steven Jackson or Tiago Splitter are being offered. So, I mean, to be honest with you, if San Antonio was to pull that off, and with a Tim Duncan who's having ankle as well as knee problems, he's been out for a few games. That just makes San Antonio that much more better. And quietly, again, San Antonio, best team in the league at 40-12. And all they're going to do is just try to make themselves better.
Well, that's your pick. You always, not saying that's your pick as a team that's going to win, but you always make sure that we keep San Antonio in our minds because of the way Popovich has those boys down there resting and getting ready for games and things of that sort.
Aren't they number one in the West, by the way?
They are number one in the West. Ain't no half step with Marcus.
They're number one in the NBA.
In the NBA right now. Let's talk a little bit. We talked about Brooklyn. Let's just kind of jump around the league. We talked a little bit about San Antonio. Miami Heat is playing great right now. LeBron James is playing out of his mind. I said on these airwaves that if I had a player to choose as the greatest player that I ever saw play, I said LeBron James. And I said that at the start of this season. And this is coming from a guy who's not a LeBron James fan, who spent the better part of the last 2 years calling the man out his name, which I promised when he won the title I would never call him that again, and I won't. But I will say this. He is making me feel pretty good about the statement that I made about him being the greatest player that I have personally ever seen in my life. Better than Magic, better than Larry, and better than the guy that wore number 45 for the Chicago Bulls. What are you saying about LeBron James right now and the production that he's giving to the Miami Heat and how well they're playing?
Man, LeBron, I don't know if I have enough superlatives to describe him. I mean, that dude right now, he's a beast. He's a monster. He's led Miami right now to the third best record in the league. What LeBron does all by himself, which nobody in the league right now can say that they do, is that he fills all of the gaps that Miami has, because Miami lacks size. Sometimes on many nights, their point guard situation is not really steady from time to time. He fills those gaps. And if you've been watching over the last few games, man, I think over the last 5 games, he shot 50%. And this is a person that can play on the box. He can play on the perimeter. There's only a few players that have had that type of success over their careers as of the last couple of years. You've had Kobe Bryant had that type of a stretch. You had back in, I want to say, 89-90, Michael Jordan had a span of 10 or 11 games where he averaged 34, 11, and 11. He averaged basically a triple-double over that 10 game span. And then, of course, you can't forget about Wilt Chamberlain, like 61, 62. I think he averaged 50 and 25 a game. So, the streak that LeBron is on right now is, something that if you're a basketball fan, you got to love it right now. I think he's gotten to the point that he's elevated his game where he can coast and still have his control over a game and carry his team. It'll be interesting to see when the playoffs start, how teams attack it. Is it going to be a situation where you let LeBron do his thing and shut down Chris Bosh, shut down D Wade? You've seen that happened with the Knicks, them being successful against the Nets. I'm sorry, against the Heat, as well as Indiana and Chicago. But LeBron James is the best player in the league as of today.
Now, what's scary about that is Dwayne Wade appears to be getting healthy and playing better ball than he had been playing. There was some people wondering if Dwayne Wade had seen his better days. If they get that dude playing pretty well and you get Chris Bosh, giving you what we expect out of Chris Bosh, is there any team in the league that could really compete with this team, including our beloved New York Knicks?
I would say the only other team that could compete with them would be possibly a San Antonio or Oklahoma City. What I'm thinking is that, it could be a team such as Indiana, such as Chicago. If they were to play against Chicago, I think that those two teams would give them problems again. Miami's Achilles heel is their front line. I mean, you have a situation where your big man, which would be 6'10", he's basically holding your middle down, and a lot of teams can throw big men at Miami. You would see that would be a reason why you saw the Knicks get a lot of big men. Tyson Chandler, you have Rasheed Wallace, hopefully Marcus Camby, those types of individuals that Miami's front line couldn't really be able to address that type of situation. But I mean, to be honest, and just like you said, if D Wade is going, you got Chris Bosh filling in, and you got LeBron being LeBron. They could definitely be on the road to number 2.
Let's go out to California before we head back to the East Coast, and we talk about the beloved former New York Knick, former Indiana Pacer, former LA Clipper head coach of the Golden State Warriors, Mark Jackson, who got those kids playing in a playoff seed right now. I don't think anybody expected Golden State to do much, considering the fact that there's a young team. I think he's got like 7 or 8 rookie or second-year players right now, along with the veteran former New York Knick and perennial all-star David Lee. What the hell is going on with Mark Jackson and the Golden State Warriors, and why the hell are they playing so good right now?
Well, you have a beastly backcourt, of Stephen Curry and Michael Thompson. Thompson out in Golden State. And what you have is you have a charismatic coach who can talk to young players and get them to buy into his system. The only thing that Mark Jackson asks of his players is for them to play hard every possession and play defense. And he also is giving them that swagger. I mean, I don't know how many people has watched Golden State play, but if you watch the way Stephen Curry plays his game, he's cold-hearted just like Mark Jackson. A lot of the tendencies and the things that individuals that know Mark Jackson and grew up watching Mark Jackson does, you see it in his team. And I believe that he has the team, and he has them having a moxie about themselves. Last week they did lose to Houston, who shot 21 3-pointers, but the reason I bring up that game, and don't get me wrong, Houston blew their doors off, but the reason I bring that up is that the record was 22. And I want to say, with about a minute and a half or so, the crowd started chanting, they want more 3-pointers. From that point on, Mark Jackson commanded his team that no one is to take no more 3-pointers. And, they started fouling them hard, very hard. And Kevin McHale, the coach of Houston, as well as Mark Jackson, kind of had a little talk at halftime. And when they interviewed Mark Jackson after the game, he said, look, I'm an old-school coach and I'm an old-school basketball player. I'm not just going to lay down and give you what you think you want. And that right there speaks volumes. Yeah, they got their doors blown off, but going forward, I guarantee you'll probably never have that happen again to Golden State.
Golden State is a surprise team. I think they're a couple years away from really making any noise, but I'm going to tell you, they're going to spoil somebody's May coming up in the Western Conference. Let's keep it out there. And let's keep it out there. Speaking of the Lakers, let's talk about what's going on in La La Land. You got pretty much some injury news, and you got some suspensions. You got a lot going on with Meta World Peace missing the game last week because of the suspension, and you get Pau Gasol, who is out indefinitely. In some cases, some people think that he might be out for the season. You got Dwight Howard and Kobe Bryant beefing. I don't even know where you want to start with this one. I mean, I think many of us heard the interview that Stephen A. Smith did with Dwight Howard about Kobe Bryant last week, and then the comments that Kobe had in retaliation of that, talking about that Dwight should be playing through injury, and then Dwight responded to that. I mean, it's a lot of back and forth, just even in me setting it up, Dub. What the hell's going on out there in La La Land, and can the Lakers overcome it and leap over a couple of teams ahead and actually make some kind of noise in the Western Conference?
Man, it would be good TV, man. If NBA TV was able to follow them on a day-to-day basis, man, it's a good soap opera. Like you stated in your description, you know, you recently had Meta World Peace being suspended for a game of all places, Detroit, throwing a little bit of a cheap shot. You have Steve Nash. You know, you saw yesterday, if you watched the game yesterday, Steve Nash and Dwight Howard kind of having a heated discussion. You had Kobe Bryant last week calling Dwight Howard out, and then you had his response to that, and then you had a lot of stuff going on, man, in LA. And I think that for a team that's 4 games under 500, I think that, you know, at this particular point now, it's becoming frustrating, and it's starting to show itself on and off the court. But you know what? There's something that I want to point out, and yesterday was a microcosm of that. You have individuals such as Earl Clark from New Jersey, used to play for Louisville, basically coming into his own, playing similar to how he played in Orlando. But what a lot of people don't realize, you don't have others, as what Shaquille O'Neal would say. You look at this box scores from yesterday. You had Kobe had 28. I want to say 9 assists, 6 rebounds. You had Steve Nash having 15 points, but only having 2 assists. Dwight Howard on a bad back and a torn labrum, he had 15 points and 9 rebounds. You had Earl Clark having 18, but then you have Meta World Peace, 9 points. You have Antoine Jameson, 3 points and 2 rebounds. I don't know how successful that team is going to be if that's going to be your production from, you know, I would say pretty much your top 6 players.
But what you got Kobe being the point forward, though, right?
Kobe is not necessarily being a point forward. He's just out there. He's understanding that, you know, for the last couple, I'm not sure why he's just getting it now, but, you know, Kobe is going to be Kobe. Kobe is going to get his points, but what he's realizing is that some of the points that he's, or I should say some of the shots that he's forcing, other individuals are open. And I think he's taking it upon himself to get more comfortable, as well as being comfortable with passing it to teammates and allowing them to get into more of a groove. Because in actuality, when you do that, it allows the team to play that much more better.
Okay, because yesterday they played pretty good up until that fourth quarter when it just seems like they ran out of gas. They played Miami very tight.
And I'll say it was a tight game up until halftime. And the difference between this is how you have to kind of look at the games. You have to break them down in segments. In actuality, the third quarter and the fourth quarter, there were only a total of 4 points scored more in the third quarter and 4 points scored more in the fourth quarter. So, you know, at the end of the day, they lost or what have you, but it's those segments where LA just couldn't get over the hump. But again, we're talking about they're playing against Miami, the defending champions, D-Wade and LeBron James, who's playing out of this world, man. But, you know, maybe not that game, but there's a couple of games, man, that I think that the dysfunction that they have as a team has cost them some wins. Now,
as a Lakers fan, I feel like I can say this and be very confident in this. There's a point in time where it's the team's fault, but then there's a point in time where it's the coach's fault. At this point in time, why you tell me Dwight Howard scores, 8 points yesterday? And I saw the whole sequence where he scored 8 points. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm just like, hey, D'Antoni, the Heat has nobody inside. Why don't we just give it to Dwight Howard? So what, he gets fouled? Okay, because all what's going to happen is smaller people coming off the bench to guard him. So what, he gets 20 free throws and hits 5. That's not the point. The point is you get to a point where LeBron has to check this dude, and then Kobe goes crazy. My thing is, our problem is D'Antoni because he just refuses to change his style of play. I don't know how bad we have to get before this dude just throws everything away and go back to basketball basics. Hey,
he has no choice, Rue. I believe if you saw the end of the quarter interview, and even in the previous game, man, he has no choice but to kind of concede to the lineup that he has.
Yeah, because if he doesn't, he's gonna be fired. There is no doubt in my mind if he don't make the playoffs, he's done. No doubt.
It's not going to happen. If they fire him, they got to pay 3 coaches. They're not going to fire D'Antoni. Live with him because you're going to have to for the next couple of years. Mike Brown's still getting paid, D'Antoni, and whoever you hire.
But it doesn't really matter if you're winning. When it's all said and done,
you can say that all you want, but it ain't your money.
Man, buses spend money.
Worse. They're not going to do it.
You're insane.
Who are they going to get?
Who's they going to get?
That's the ultimate question. Phil told you to kiss my.
But you best believe if they don't fire him, we will not have Dwight Howard next year. That's a guarantee. We will not have Dwight Howard because Dwight Howard's going to leave.
I think it's clear that one of the two of them has to go, but I don't think that one of the two of them will go. I think next season you will see Mike D'Antoni and Dwight Howard.
And I disagree because Mike D'Antoni's offense, unless he does a complete overhaul, it does not fit Dwight Howard's scheme.
I understand that, but it didn't fit Amari Stoudemire or Carmelo Anthony either. And you saw that he lasted for 4 years there. He's not going nowhere, this Ruben. So live with it.
You know what? And I'm going to disagree because they fired Mike Brown 5 games this year.
Yeah, but that's the beginning of the season. And Mike Brown, unfortunately, I'm gonna take some heat for this one, but I'm used to it. Mike Brown didn't have the league cachet that Mike D'Antoni seems to have. I don't understand why he has it, but he does. Because of the 50 games that he won 2-3 years in a row in Phoenix, Mike Brown got a big contract in New York. Mike D'Antoni got a big contract in New York. When he flamed out there, the excuse was given that the Knicks was saving and cutting costs so they get LeBron, so that all of the poor play that they had wasn't all his fault. So when he ended up losing after not doing well with Stoudemire and Carmelo, he ends up going to Los Angeles with still a little bit of his cachet in.
But the difference between New York and Los Angeles is Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant wants to win. Period, point blank. But Kobe Bryant wants to win.
Yeah, he does. But Kobe Bryant is also under contract. It's not like it was 2 years ago when he was towards the end of his contract with still prime years ahead of him when he was like, trade me, and they were scared that he would actually. What are you going to do now?
Retire. Why not?
Yeah,
it's not like he needs the money. It's not about the money for him.
He wants to pull a Jordan.
No, but I'm saying you can say pull a Jordan all you want. With Kobe Bryant, it's not all about the money. It's nothing about the money. They can pay him $1 a year. It doesn't matter. The thing about it, he wants a ring.
Yeah,
and if
get out of here.
I understand what you're saying.
I mean, New York did not have the person to say,
right. You're
"Hey,
right.
Look, get this guy out of here."
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
Yeah.
But Kobe Bryant will be like, "Yo, this guy's got to go."
Ain't no half Steppin with Marcus J. We're gonna.
What's Dub think about that? I want to know what Dub thinks about that.
Well, Dub, real quick, Dub, tell me what your thoughts is on what Ruben just said. We got to get a little Nick talk in here before we get out of here. We got about 5 minutes left in the segment.
What? He's absolutely right, man. With Kobe, it's about those W's, man. It would be unprecedented for the Lakers to actually let him go. But to be honest with you, and you already know, I'm not a fan. So, hey. He could fight. He could be successful somewhere else if I was Rube.
Nah, I agree with them. I just don't think.
Somewhere else other than.
Well, I agree with him, and I agree with you. I just don't think that you're going to have a franchise pay for 3 coaches at one time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Real quick, the Clippers are playing well. They appear to be getting healthy with Chris Paul coming back. Grant Hill put some good minutes in yesterday against the New York Knicks. You got Blake Griffin playing well. He's saying like he's a Knicks fan or
no, I'm a Grant Hill fan.
Okay.
You know that. I've told you that.
But anyway, the Clippers look good. They beat the hell out the Knicks yesterday. They looked outclassed. The Knicks didn't belong on the court with the Clippers yesterday. The score was 14 points, but the game wasn't even that close. They had Jamal Crawford looking like number 45 of the Bulls yesterday. So what's going on with the New York Knicks because they're just not playing like they played in the first month of the season. We can be excited about them getting their whole team together. You got Iman Shumpert's on the trade block, allegedly. What's going on in Madison Square Garden?
I think that, with the Knicks, I think that this break of about a week or so would do them very well. To get a couple of guys back. From what I understand, Rasheed Wallace will be back as of after the All-Star break. And then the only other person that will be left will be Marcus Camby to kind of get him back for that playoff push. With the Knicks, you know what? The one thing that a lot of people talked about being their age, and out of everybody, I would say that definitely has affected Jason Kidd the most, due to the fact that when Raymond Felton went down with the hand injury, that put a lot more minutes on Jason Kidd back, and now he's not that same player as he was in the beginning of the season. And again, I just reiterate, I think that with the Knicks, this All-Star break, just a little time away from basketball, kind of recharge their energy, their battery, and get ready for this playoff push. You'll see a different team. I mean, let's not fool ourselves. The Knicks are 32-17. They're still number one in the Atlantic. They're, I would say, number 5 or number 6 throughout the NBA. They have to get back to what got them successful early in the year, and that's basically ball movement and defense. All of the categories as far as the teams that they play, they're in the plus, excluding one. Whenever their opponent scores over 100 points, they're 7-12. So that just speaks to me that they have to, when they were successful, they were holding teams to under 90 points. So again, I think that the break will do them good. And speaking of what you were talking about with Mon Shumpert, there has been some rumblings about possibly bringing in someone like Jared Dudley or even J.J. Riddick from Orlando.
Hell no.
I personally would not move anybody or do anything with the Knicks at this
Did you hear what I said?
point, but that's just my own.
Did you hear what I said? Hell no. I don't want neither one of them dudes. No,
I don't want it because that doesn't address the Knicks, issue, and that would be, I would say, perimeter defense. If you looked at a lot of the games within the last, I would say 7 games, or I would even say 2 games before Raymond Felton came back and since his return, the one thing that has been killing the Knicks is the point guards
getting blown. Yeah, they're getting blown away. It's not like this kid from Phoenix whose name is escaping me is going to, like, he's known as a guy that can score. He can't play no defense. And then you got J.J. Redick. We know that all he does is score. He can't play no defense, and he's undersized. So, there's talk about the Knicks wanting to win now, not wanting to wait on a 22-year-old player with a knee issue who's probably a year away from being back to where he was a year ago. I get all that. You don't trade Iman Shumpert. You just don't, because Iman Shumpert is going to be your future. Once his offensive game begins to develop and you put it alongside his defensive game, he could potentially, and I'm not saying he is, there's still a lot of basketball that needs to be played, but he could potentially be an all-star. Final word on that, Kdub.
You're absolutely correct. Everything that you said, I agree with. I do not move on Iman Shumpert, especially because it does not address the Knicks' need, which is perimeter defense. And I think that the rest will allow that to kind of bring itself back. I would not make any moves. I would stand pat and go with what the Knicks have right now.
Okay.
And keep it moving.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We're going to leave the National Basketball Association there. We got a special treat for the Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J listeners, because you're getting a double dose. The Kdub, you're going to get to see 2 sides of him tonight in his National Basketball Association spot. We just got finished. We're getting ready to take a break. We're going to do another segment. And when we come back after the next segment, we got Kdub coming back for a segment of what the hell is going on with this ex-cop in California and what the hell is going on with T-Bag. Oops, excuse me. Did I say that? The Tea Party congressman with issues with the First Lady. So, Dub, we're going to take a break from you now, but we're going to hit you back in about 20 minutes. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got my homegirl, Rashida Moore, who's going to share with us her online business, Kiss Kiss Darling Boutique. We got some jewelry. We got some Valentine's Day. We got some stuff we're going to get into. We dedicating tonight's show to Whitney Houston. We got Black History Month. Marcus J. Ain't no half stepping. We'll be back in a minute.
Hey, it's your girl Mary Roberts from ODU and the back-to-back WNBA champion Houston Comets representing from the ATL. on Monday nights from 7 to 9. I'm always tuned into the #1 show on globalscaleradio.net. Ain't no half stepping with my boy Marcus J. Don't forget to call in and join the conversation.